This is a photo of my grandparents, my mother's mum and dad, on their wedding day. On the back of it, it says, "Beloved Parents' Wedding, October 1921. And he was actually, my granddad was in the war from 1914 to 1918, and he was badly gassed in the war, as were many young men.
How old was he?
He died in 33 and he was 38. That means he was born in 1895. He was 19 at the beginning of the First World War. They looked very happy on this wedding day, and they went on to have 3 children.
What year was Nan born?
22.
Was she the oldest?
Yes.
How many siblings did she have?
2. Bill was 3 years younger than her, and Dot was 7 years younger than her. My mum said they were devoted to one another. They had a really happy marriage. Very poor, lived in Camden Town. He was a train driver, and he drove the very famous train called the Flying Scotsman. But he had periods of unemployment, as many people did in the 30s. It was a depression. So he suffered from depression, and...
What, because of the war?
Well, they think it was. But nobody ever really talked about it then. But she always said that her parents were devoted to one another, and she was a big daddy's girl. Anyway, one Christmas Day, must have been 1933, he sent them down to visit her sister and their family for a couple of hours in the morning. And when they came back a couple of hours later, Mum always tells the story that she was skipping up the road and up the steps to see Daddy, and went inside the flat. There was a notice on the kitchen door saying "keep out", and she rushed in, and he was lying by the cooker with his head in the gas oven. He'd gassed himself.
That's so horrible.
And she was 12, so her siblings were 9 and 5. And her mother, he didn't leave a note or anything, and of course in those days there was a terrible stigma attached to suicide. You know, it was talked about like it was a crime almost. So they had no money, a small widow's pension. Her mother had a massive breakdown because she just didn't understand why he'd done it. How could he do it? She never got over it, and my mum had to go to work at 12 to support them. So that was when her schooling finished. She went to work in an office.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was very bright, and she became quite well educated, self-taught really. She loved reading, so she did. She had a good standard of literacy, and you know, she was very bright and able. But yeah, went to work at 12 and was always terrified that her mum was going to do the same thing.
Mm.
So she used to sit outside the kitchen while her mum was sitting inside the kitchen in depths of despair and depression.
Did she ever remarry?
No. In fact, she died in 1955, quite young, in her 50s, of leukemia, when my mum was pregnant with my sisters, twin sisters.
So only a little bit after you were born?
I do remember her a little bit. She's one of my
Yeah.
first memories.
Really?
I would have been 3, yeah. So my mum had really quite a difficult, sad upbringing. In fact, until she met she grew up in the same street as my dad, and they were always friends, families were friends. And I think my mum started going out with my dad when she was about 15, They were the same age,
Mm.
so they were like childhood sweethearts. And I think she got a lot of support from my dad's mum and dad,
Oh, really?
Albert and Maud.
Did you say that Maud wasn't very nice?
My dad's mum, well, she was, but she wasn't. She was very straightforward and quite sort of stubborn and no fuss or frills. You know,
Yeah.
very bit cold really.
Yeah.
But my granddad Albert was gorgeous.
Was he the carpenter?
Carpenter, yeah. So that's that one, and that leads us on to.
I didn't know what this photo was when I saw it first.
Just looks like a
Pile of
Pile of-
debris.
debris in a old street, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It was in January 1941, so my mum was 19 when this photo was taken, and it says Mum and Dad Thomas. That's my dad's mum and dad.
Right.
And my mother Rose, dug out of this house demolished by a bomb in 1941, and she came round the corner with my dad into this street, and
Was that the street she grew up on?
yeah, oh, I'm not sure, I think it was, yeah, Marquis Road, yeah, it was number 6 Marquis Road. She came round the corner and of course went into terrible grief-stricken state, thinking they're all dead,
Yeah.
because they didn't have an air raid shelter, and they didn't like going down the tube. They didn't like it. So they used to stay, a lot of people used to stay in their houses and make do with different arrangements to try and keep safe. My granddad, being clever and a carpenter, had put a big wooden pillar in the middle of the kitchen. In fact, he built it into the kitchen table. So it created, if anything fell, it created like
a cone.
a cone. So they started to dig, and they dug out 3 perfectly uninjured. They weren't really. They were just bruised and scratched and dirty. They were all had sat round the kitchen table while this bomb dropped, and they just pulled them out one by one. And my mum said it was just like it was the best day of her life, because her and my dad really believed all their parents had died in
Yeah.
this.
That is just
That's
unbelievable.
yeah. And my dad was always a photographer from about 14. He worked in photographic studios from about the age of 13, 14. Was always keen to take photos of everything, and there's a very memorable one.
So that's why you guys have so many pictures of you and your siblings modelling
Yeah.
at such young ages.
My dad was a photographer, yeah.
Mm.
This is Jane. We were all child models, not that we wanted to be, and all moaned and complained endlessly. And this is one of them, because look there on the back it says Carlton Artists Limited. That was the firm he worked for. In fact, he became the managing director of them. And they then became Carlton TV channel. So it was a big, very successful firm, and it says their model file. That was one of my sisters. We did a lot of modelling for knitwear, because they had the Peyton's contract.
What's Peyton's?
Peyton's is like those little, like a little leaflet with a photo of this, say this outfit here,
Yeah.
knitted, and then inside would be the pattern for it.
Oh, right.
And they were
okay.
called Peyton's,
Oh,
the firm,
okay, yeah.
the most successful one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were Peyton's models. Not
Was that a big
we-
deal?
I suppose. And in fact, my twin sisters were. I think one of them was the Pears soap model one year, which was a big deal.
Did your friends know you did a lot of modelling?
We didn't broadcast it. We didn't want to be seen in the latest knitwear
Well, you know,
or modelling in a bath with a bar of soap.
the yellow anorak story.
The day my modelling career ended, when
Yeah.
I was like 16, when my dad wanted me to, and I had to, and my brother, who was 19, had to do a shoot for Ever Ready batteries, and it involved us being on a bicycle each with a big in those days you had these batteries that you had these lights on the front of bikes. You had to put the battery in, and it was an Ever Ready battery. So we had to get on the bike, push bike, and it was taken in Hampstead Lane in Hampstead, and ride towards the camera with the light on, and with blue quilted anoraks zipped up to the top with the hood up tightened, and we had to ride towards the camera to show the strong battery in the lamp. And then they used my one on the front of a box, an Ever Ready battery box that had all the batteries in that they sold in shops, and had it in the shop near my school. And everyone was saying, including teachers, "Is that you in that?" And they had it in the window. "Is that you in the window?" I was like, "No." "What are you talking about?" I went in the shop, begged them. They went, "It's you." And I said, "Oh, can you please take it out?" "Why, no."
Oh my god.
I didn't do any modelling after that.
The Ever
We
Ready
never
battery
liked
girl.
it. We hated it. You were in. Usually that was an outdoor one, and we did things. We did a lot of. I remember I did some knitwear where I was riding a horse and leaning against a pony and things like that. That was fine, the outdoor, but the indoor ones were really tedious. Hot, heavy, bright lamps on you, all pinned up with different sort of outfits on, having to do take after take. Horrible.
What did your mum say about it?
I don't know, we just always did it. And when she was younger, being very beautiful, she did lots of shots with us when we were babies.
Yeah.
As she got older, she didn't. She just put us into it. No, we hated it. I'm sure my dad got quite a lot of money for it. We never saw it. Not that we were deprived children. We were very privileged. But he had an amazing job. He ran that company and that firm in the end, and had all the first supermodels in the 60s. Jean Shrimpton and Patty Boyd and women like that. That was the start of the supermodels, and my dad virtually ran that advertising agency that used them all.
I never knew that. I knew he was a photographer, but I didn't know he was
He was quite
well known.
well known. When we moved from Camden Town when I was 3 to Duke's Avenue, Muswell Hill, we had a nice big house. And because of my dad's connection with TV and advertising, one of the episodes for a programme called Dixon of Dock Green, which was about a police station and policemen, was shot in our living room. There's a picture of my brother talking to Jack Warner, who was the lead character in it.
Was that a big deal?
Yeah.
Was it
In
quite
our
a
living room.
well-known show?
Oh yeah, it was like one of the top TV shows in the 60s. People were very well known in my living room. So I would have been about 5. And we had a TV. We were one of the families that did, because it was early on. And my mum always says, I don't know if it's true, that I said to him, "How did you get out of the television?"
Oh yeah, you were saying she used to always tell that story and you hated it.
You know. And there's a photo here of the back garden, which I remember as seeming to be huge.
Yeah.
I mean, the houses in Duke's Avenue are very big, but I always remember the garden to be like rambling and going on forever. But actually in this photo it looks, and thinking about it, it wasn't that huge, but it seemed it when we were little. And
In
there's a
that
picture of a
garden.
birthday party. I actually think it's in the neighbours next door, Lily and Peter. We did used to have, as I say, we were quite indulged. We had lots of big birthday parties for everyone. And in this one, where I'm probably about 8 or 9,
Was that your birthday party?
I don't think it was, possibly. There's a photo of lots of our neighbours' children and school friends, and my siblings. And there's also 2 of them in there became my step sisters,
Yeah.
because my parents were very friendly with Paula and Julie, these 2 here, their parents, for many years. And after they'd split up and divorced,
Your parents?
and them, my mum married Paula and Julie's dad.
Gangy.
Who, yeah, lovely, and had a very happy marriage with him. And I was, or still am, very close, especially to one of my stepsisters, Paula. And there they are, they were younger than me, probably about 4 and 5.
Because Gangy's the only granddad that I've known from the outsiders. I never knew your dad.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Was that all the photos we had?
Next.
Oh, the band photo. That's a good one.
Oh, the band photo. Yep. This is a photo of me with some friends and my first boyfriend when I was 14. These photos were sent to me by a friend I went to school with,
Who's that?
Jill, who's been a friend since I was 11. And one of the boys in the photo had found her on Facebook, because he'd gone to school with us, and was looking to get in touch with my then boyfriend. So he'd seen Jill on Facebook and sent these photos to her in the hope that she would still be in touch with some of the guys in the photo, which of course she is, and because he wants to link up with my then boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, who was the drummer in this group called The Rage.
Rage with an I.
With an I. And it was amazing looking at this. We were 14.
And you and Derek are still
And
really
I'm
good
happy
friends.
to say that Derek and I, though we split up after about 2 years, I think, remain very close friends to this day.
Mm.